everybody. Trying to introduce the show, but Lee's got so many Star Trek opinions.
I just too many opinions. Plus, I didn't know that you hit the button, Rebecca. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well,
and
he hasn't been on the
you.
show, so he needs to get it out.
Not since those old scientists. It's
so,
been a bit.
So essentially, welcome aboard the Great Ship, the Space Show. I'm your host, Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Frost. Joined.
Whoa, you got a
Kerry
promotion?
Jackson. I did get a promotion, Lieutenant
Congratulations.
Commander. Yeah,
Wow.
and then we're joined by Admiral Kerry Jackson and also Commander Robert Neal, who he feels like he doesn't deserve the title, but he's so extremely knowledgeable that he absolutely deserves the title.
Yes.
He's
And
our
Lee,
special attaché for Memory Alpha.
Indeed.
And Lee, I don't know if we ever assigned you
I was
a
told I
role.
was a Commodore.
Okay, Commodore
Yeah.
Leigh George Kade, welcome to the bridge.
Deep Space 4. Good to be here.
And it's a very special day here on the Space Show. We're talking about some more season 2 episodes. But before we talk about those, just want to issue a quick apology. I did not put in the hot flirtatious conversation between Riker and Guinan at the end of last week's episode. So apologies. I said I would, and I didn't.
Go watch the episode. It's How do you lose? It's Guinan and Riker flirting. Come on,
Maybe if I'm smart enough and remember, I'll do it on this one. Spoiler alert, she won't.
So who goes to who when Riker's hitting on them on board the ship? Because on the Icarus Factor, I'm not going to talk about the Icarus Factor, but I'm going to mention that Riker's hitting really hard and heavy on a lieutenant in 10 forward, and
what's the deal there?
Woefully inappropriate by modern
where's
standards.
HR? Where's the HR?
Right.
Who's chief of
Exactly.
HR on the
Is
USS
Troy
Enterprise?
involved with that? Is she covering up for Riker's indiscretions because she's so hot for Imzadi? These are questions I need answered.
Maybe Starfleet has different Kirk-inspired rules, perhaps.
Yeah, well, we don't tolerate those shenanigans at Starbase 4, I'll tell you.
Good.
Maybe Riker is chief of HR. Who are you going to report him to? Him?
Right.
He's God,
Yeah.
Also, before we talk about these episodes, I just want to give a quick congratulations to our friends who swept the 2024 Saturn Awards. If you don't know what the Saturn Awards are presented annually by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. These awards were created to honor science fiction, fantasy, and horror in film, but have since grown to reward other films belonging to the genre of fiction, as well as television and home media releases. But let's just take... This is a long list of the awards won by our Star Trek friends. Best Animated Series, Lower Decks.
Yes.
Best Science Fiction Television Series went to both Picard and Strange New Worlds.
They split?
I don't know.
That's
how
awesome,
it works.
though. That's great.
Because also, Best Actor in a Television Series, both Anson Mount and Patrick Stewart. Best Supporting Actor in a Television Series, Jonathan Frakes, Ethan Peck, Ed Spielers, and Todd Stashwick.
Well done, Todd Stashwick.
Oh, I was going to say you should have just given it to Todd Stashwick for that performance. Yeah. Absolutely.
Who was he?
Just
Captain
for that,
PTSD.
Yes, just for the speech about sitting in the bar and being a grease monkey from Chicago.
Here you are, you're all celebrating Locutus of Borg. Let me tell you where I was when Locutus of Borg came.
Who is he in Strange New Worlds?
He's not in Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, I misspoke. I corrected myself.
He's the captain of the Titan. Captain Shaw.
Okay.
Captain Shaw.
And probably my favorite captain in the history of Star Trek.
What a great
Get
captain.
out.
Really?
No. I mean, not because that as a character. Like
okay,
when
fair enough.
When it comes right down to it, I'm a Riker boy because that guy will ram anything,
but
romantically or physically.
But Stashwick showed up and in a short period of time gave you a character, and you started hating him and then you loved him, and that was terrific.
Yeah,
well played, well written.
Shaw deserves the Shaw was right shirt more than Cyclops does. So.
We also have Best Supporting Actress in a Television Series going to Jess Bush, Celia Rose Gooding, and Jerry Ryan. Oh. And then Best Guest Star in a Television Series, Amanda Plummer and Paul Wesley. So, congrats across the board to all of our Star Trek. Not only that,
Indeed.
the cast of The Next Generation received a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Nice.
which is huge. So congratulations to all of our friends who won so many awards finally
I was
after all these
just
years.
thinking about Jess Bush the other day, how hard her role is to play, because not only is this a well-established character with 3 seasons of storylines, she's played
Well
by
established.
well established by female standards in TOS. So, but there's already a story there. There's already a character there. Making that character your own, with the baggage of that person being played by the creator of the show's wife and the mother of one of the executive producers of the show you're on.
Oh,
Those are
yes.
huge shoes to fill.
I didn't think about the mom part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that,
Oh.
she's Australian, so she's pulling off. Acting's magic. It's
Australians, they're who you go to when you need an actor.
Yeah.
And they come in here taking our job.
Taking
Yeah.
our jobs.
Used
but
to be a
the-
time an American boy could go get a superhero gig. Now some Brit or Aussie comes in, takes off.
Let's
I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm just going to leave it completely alone.
Today we're talking about Contagion, the Royale, Time Squared, the Icarus Factor, and Pen Pals. So, starting with Contagion, encountering the superior technology of a very ancient race creates system malfunctions for a doomed Federation starship, for the Enterprise, and for an eavesdropping Romulan warbird. This episode is just planet has virus. And
It's before we understood computer viruses worth of crap. So, like, this was super spooky to us. We're like, what if my Commodore comes down with a virus?
Oh, knows.
So the Picard and the Enterprise are responding to a distress call from its sister ship, the USS Yamato, which is facing a number of serious technical glitches. They've lost 18 crew members when its computer turned off the force field into an open shuttle bay. The ship is stranded in the neutral zone. What are we doing in the neutral zone, first off? And then Picard is like, okay, guess I'll come get you. And I feel like if I was captain and somebody was in the neutral zone, I would be like, sorry, you're SOL. You don't go there. But Picard, ever
Leave
loyal.
no ship behind.
Ever loyal, leave no ship behind. We got to go save our friend. But before they can properly assist, scary ancient TV glitching happens, and the ship explodes with everybody lost.
Which is a shame, because Captain Varley's mustache probably could have saved everybody.
Oh,
He
yes.
was fantastic.
That mustache was phenomenal.
The explosion appears as the result of a failure in their matter-antimatter pods. But Picard suspects it may have something to do with a relic the Yamato's captain obtained at an archaeological dig on a nearby planet. In his personal logs, the captain spoke about a probe scan of the ship from the Iconia planet. As they are in the neutral zone, they are shadowed by a Romulan warbird led by Captain Terrace, and the Romulans are like, hey, same question, what are you doing here? And Picard responds with, what are you doing here? And it's just, it's just a you get out of here, no, you get out of here, until all systems start glitching. There's also a probe that appears to come scan the ship, and Geordi I love when Geordi gets to do stuff, because he puts together that this probe is going to royally mess up their ship. So he runs, LeVar Burton giving it his all stunt-wise in this episode.
Oh, that elevator scene was pretty intense.
He's trying to get to the bridge, and the elevator is just throwing him around like one of those fair rides that spins and you get stuck to the wall. He finally tumbles onto the bridge and tells Picard, destroy the probe. And the thing I love about Star Trek so much is a man comes tumbling out of the elevator into the bridge and says, destroy that probe. You don't think twice. You listen to the man and you just do it. And that's one of my most favorite things about Star Trek is just the belief in everybody.
Well, I just think it's wonderful that the ship of the future doesn't have a firewall or virus protection, perhaps.
Well, I mean,
such silly things.
It is the Iconians, and can you protect yourself against a virus from a technology that so far outstrips yours?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Okay.
what I was super impressed with when the Yamato exploded, I mean, not the greatest effects by our standards, but by 1989 television syndication standards,
Oh, for
watching
then, yeah.
watching the saucer section just boil away and
That was nuts.
that was
Yeah.
rad. And I mean, it felt bad. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
then also Wesley takes the time to go find Picard to talk about his feelings.
And not
Well,
once
Beverly's
was it,
not there.
That's true. But not once was it, Wesley, we're in the middle of something. Could we talk about it later? No, he
He
talked to him.
listens. He listens, but
And not once did anybody ask him why his acting ensign onesie has a fly on it.
for pissing.
Yeah, no.
Now I gotta start paying more attention.
Yeah, no. He's got like a toddler's union
Delta.
suit. Like, yeah,
Yeah, the Delta on the front.
it's like some costume designer said, well, he is a child. Let's give him.
Okay,
Let's give
now
him
I
a
gotta
yeah.
now I gotta look for this damn
It's-
thing.
It is blatantly obvious.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Weird.
it's a
I've
scene where he
never
walks
paid
in, you're just like,
attention
oh.
to. I've never
I
paid
think
attention
about-
to that part of Will Wheaton's uniform.
No, I think about being 15, having to report to a set where people are already sending you hate mail, and the
yeah.
costume designers are like, "Here's your acting ensign uniform. By the way, it's got a P flap."
Unrelated. I would like you to seek out Will Wheaton's response to Elmo getting absolutely rattled on the Today Show by Larry David. It's actually very sweet. It's actually I don't like Will Wheaton just as a person. That's my own. But he posted, I don't know where, Facebook maybe, a really nice response to the fact that Larry David throttled Elmo on the Today Show, and it's actually not a good thing.
No.
And what that meant to Will Wheaton and how that emotionally affected him as a child of abuse, and talked about how his father would abuse him and how Sesame Street was an escape and a safe space for him. And so Larry David doing that is actually really damaging. Anyway, seek it out. It's really good. Anyway, this probe, it turns out, was trying to download some software onto the Enterprise. It downloaded the software onto the Yamato, and the programs are incompatible, and that's why the Yamato exploded. And so the software is technically already on the Enterprise, and so they got to find a way to rewrite it. Picard sees this as an opportunity to do what he wants, and
Archaeology.
archaeology.
This is the
Yes.
beginning. This is actually Picard's archaeology plot armor started this episode, and it carries on forever.
That's true.
Because Riker's like, okay, we're gonna put it together an away team. We're gonna go down to the planet Iconia, figure this out. And Picard's like, no, I should go. I'm the one who's researched Iconia. I want to go do it. I want to get my brush and my belt, and I want to go do it. And Riker's like, I have no choice. If you want to go, okay. And so they beam down to the planet, and they find Iconian technology that allows them to open gateways to other worlds that they could travel through light years as easily as crossing a room. And we deduce this is probably what happened to the Iconians, right? Like they went through a portal and never returned. And so instead of going extinct, they're probably just scattered throughout the galaxy, right? One of the portals leads to the Enterprise, and the cycle repeats every 4 minutes. Data manages to gain access, but he gets the old jolt and is taken out of commission. And Picard tells Worf to take Data through the portal to the Enterprise when it rolls around next. Picard's like, I want to do this adventure on my own. But
I never get out into the field anymore.
they figure out a way. Picard, or Data, is able to kind of tell Picard, a way to destroy the planet by destroying its power source, and they're gonna override the launch stuff. Blah 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 blah. Picard's gonna stay back and do it all. Back on the Enterprise, Data shuts down. Geordi declares that he's dead. The loss of his best friend, but then Data reboots and
He turned
figures out a
himself
way
back on, turned himself off and back on again.
That's
Yeah.
the way to fix things: is turn it off and turn it back on again.
I'm rebooting, sir.
Data reboots, he and Geordi figure out a way to fix the Enterprise by unplugging it, turning it off, turning it back on again.
Essentially, yeah.
Picard executes the probe launch, and as he runs out of time, he takes a portal onto the Romulan ship, and so our friend Picard finds himself trapped on a Romulan ship. But our good friend Chief O'Brien finds him, and right as the Romulans are about to, Picard gets to leave on a
Picard out.
He leaves on a, I think not today, Captain Terrace, and beams away.
I would have forgiven Picard a double middle finger, as he beamed away.
That's
I would have
more of
forgiven that.
It's more
Well,
of a Beckett Mariner.
Yeah, it is.
But what
yeah.
I like about this moment too is Captain Terrace has a look on her face that to me looks like relief. Like she also doesn't want to start a war with the Federation.
No.
The paperwork is just
The paperwork alone. So to me, she has this look on her face like, thank God, I cannot deal with this today. The Romulan ship, however, because it has been probed, it is set to self-destruct. And so Riker very nicely says, all right, we'll send them over the instructions to fix it, but get us out of here. And they zip right on out. And the thing I like also about Star Trek is there's no follow-up on these things. Like, do we ever find out what happened to the Iconians?
No.
Ever?
They're mentioned.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are they?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think they might be proto-humans. I could be completely wrong.
I trust your memory.
Because... No, do not. Because my time in the hospital means there's a lot of Paw Patrol sprinkled out throughout my memories.
Okay.
I'll be like, well, Ace the dog came to Iconia. This episode, so interesting because I got so frustrated about all the hand wavium. It's like there's so much hand wavium going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then they turned around and saved it by them reaching out to the Romulans. Like just that little hat tip of, oh, we're explorers, we're scientists, we're not, we're kind of the military, but we're not just going to leave these people stranded on an exploding ship. They may be our enemies, that we may have had 100-year-long war with them, but why leave this ship to die when they were just there investigating why we were here in the first place? And I loved that little tip of humanity that took all of 30 seconds to resolve, and it made me go, that's Star Trek.
That's
Whereas prior to that, it was
baby.
Good point.
Some trivia for this episode. This is the episode with Riker's iconic line, "Fate protects fools, little children, and ships named the Enterprise." This is based on a statement by 19th century German Prime Minister Otto von Bismarck. God loves children, drunkards, and the United States of America. Bismarck.
Go
Hell yeah,
Federation.
brother.
Okay, there is a follow-up in Deep Space Nine where the USS Defiant goes to destroy an Iconian gateway on Vandros 4.
Oh, okay. So
they're only mentioned once. They're only mentioned once again, but they're not.
Right.
I got them mixed up with the Proto-Humans, which is like a season 6 episode.
That's coming. Yes.
Obviously. Also, this is the first time that Picard orders tea, Earl Grey, hot from the replicator, and due to ship-wide malfunctions, that order is unsuccessful.
Mm-hmm. First time.
She had a drink machine
You're thinking about it, Lee?
under his desk. He'd be okay.
You thought it was sooner?
I thought it was like, first scene in the show. It's Riker and Data whistling on the holodeck and Picard drinking tea. But
there you go.
Later on, he proves himself to be the most English Frenchman alive. I can't wait to talk about it. But this next episode, one of my favorite episodes, the Royale. Worf, Data, and Riker find themselves trapped in a recreation of a poorly written novel. Let's go. I love when Brent Spiner gets to do stuff, and he gets to do stuff.
I know why you like this episode so much. It's because you love escape
I like bad
rooms.
books.
I do love escape rooms, and that's essentially what this whole thing is. It's
you
an
were
escape
excited
room.
about Morbius. Like this is.
I'm excited about how bad Madam Web is gonna be.
Oh,
Let's go. So,
I mean, I know you love a train wreck.
I love a train wreck. The Enterprise is advised by a passing Klingon vessel of strange debris in orbit around the nearby planet in Theta 116 system. And upon investigation, they find a piece of a NASA spacecraft that has the word NASA and the U.S. flag on it, because hell yeah, brother. the planet below has severe weather with an ammonia atmosphere, temperature of negative 291 degrees Celsius, and winds of 312 meters per second, and a toxic atmosphere, except for one small area that appears to be uninhabitable by humans. The spacecraft from that era could not have traveled this far because NASA. This goes back to the Voyager in whichever Star Trek movie that is.
The first one, yeah.
The first one, yep. Thank you.
First one.
And
The moving picture.
in addition, this also seems to be hit by weapons from present time. So Riker, Data, and Worf beam down to the surface only to find in a black void a single revolving door, leading them to the casino floor in the Hotel Royale.
Now, right away, I got to say I was impressed that they knew how to use a revolving door, unlike Kirk. Which we'll get to that.
But no, wait. He didn't know how to use a revolving door because he's from a fascist alternate timeline. That's not.
A
that's not
door.
Prime- No, that's not. That wasn't Prime Kirk. That was Kirk from a
They
different
don't have-
timeline. He didn't. He didn't
fascist-
grow up on. He didn't
fascist
grow up on
regimes-
Earth.
Don't
Okay.
believe in revolving doors because of equity. So
Sure.
also in the previous episode,
Wow.
Dr. Pulaski tells one of the medical officers to set a broken leg with a splint, and he's like, "What is that?" And she says, it's ancient technology where you take two pieces of wood. And if it were me, I'd be like, "What's wood?" I don't have any of that here on the USS
Well,
Enterprise.
we got our wood trim up on the bridge. That's about it.
Don't you
though.
think they could like replicate something that would do
A
that?
splint.
But also, if the replicator is
Yeah.
broken, remember the Earl Grey tea,
Oh,
hot, got all
oh.
messed
But
up.
But they have
No,
they
this
have
is
an
the
arboretum
Royale.
on the,
Nothing's
on the
wrong
ship.
with the ship here.
They have a what?
They have an arboretum on the Enterprise, so they've got trees on the Enterprise.
That's right. They do have trees on the
Oh.
Enterprise.
Also, it was the last episode that everything was broken. This episode, everything's
Yes,
fine.
yes.
That's
The
true.
Royale.
Well,
nothing
things
was
are not
broken.
all. Things in this episode are not all as they seem.
No.
So our friends on the away team find that they are trapped in a casino and cannot exit. The phasers won't work either. Been there, baby. Who else among us has been trapped in a casino and can't find their way out?
I worked in one for 6 years.
Mhm.
Talk about trapped.
They have lost communications with the Enterprise, but Troy is still able to sense what Riker is feeling.
He's
gotta
amused.
Love runs deep. Love runs deep.
Sorry.
That's the hand waving I did because when they lost communication with the Enterprise, but Deanna could still sense what Riker was feeling. I was like, "That's true love, baby. That's just true love." The assistant manager of the hotel says to our away team that they have been expecting them. A bellboy tells the manager that he's in love with Rita, but the manager discourages the bellboy as Rita is with Mickey D. The hotel is full of guests and an overflowing casino bustling with activity. None of the people in the hotel are emitting life signs. They exist, but they do not register as humans or machines. The assistant manager insists that they are on Earth. None of the guests interact with the away team, and there are no other doors or windows in the hotel. That's just a casino. And this
No
hotel
clocks.
is made to resemble 20th century Earth, so this is absolutely a casino in the 80s. And then back on the Enterprise, Picard has Geordi and Wesley working on finding new frequencies because they got to give Wesley something to do. So as they explore the hotel, they find the remains of a human who has been dead for several centuries. And this is NASA astronaut Colonel Ritchie, who was on the
Colonel.
ship. Thank you, that the Enterprise found. They also found his diary and a cheap pulp fiction novel that seems to be the story taking place in the hotel itself. The astronaut has been dead for 283 years. In the diary, Colonel Ritchie notes that the ship was infected by an alien life form that infected and killed everybody on board the ship but him. The alien life brought Ritchie to the planet and kept him alive out of some sense of guilt. The Hotel Royale was created using the novel as a reference for Earth's preferred lifestyle. Ritchie survived in this environment for 38 years before dying, and Wesley
Ouch.
finds a way to create communications links so that they can talk. So they tell Picard, this is all based on this book. Picard listens to an audiobook version of the book and hates every second of it. And in this diary too, it turns out, yes, Rob.
Oh God, he's. I'm watching him listen to this book with Deanna, and I'm watching his reaction. It's like 2 words for you, Picard: Dixon Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Picard.
But
Where
that
do
story-
you get off.
I love that as hackneyed as this story is, as kind of awful and delirious this episode is. They did one of my favorite things that the book actually starts with. It was a dark and stormy night.
So good. And in this book too, this man in the diary, Colonel Ritchie describes this as essentially like a hell. Like he is stuck in hell. And I guess one man's hell is another Rebecca's retirement plan in Mesquite, you know?
I was going to say.
Yeah, no. I hate to tell you, the biggest problem with this casino, having worked a few casinos, there were only 3 blackjack tables and approximately a dozen slot machines, which means from a gambling perspective, it's in a trailer. But it
There was a
had
craps
multiple...
table. They
one craps table.
They taught Data how to play craps.
Did
And
they?
he's only betting on the pass line. Like somebody please
I didn't catch that.
tell-
I must have passed out.
Oh
But-
yeah.
but
I'm
Texas-
pretty sure he's only betting on the pass line.
Texas, the only guy in the simulation that actually talks to
From
anybody.
Lubbock, Texas.
Lubbock, Texas.
Oh, I thought it was. I
I-
thought it was Nathan, Arizona. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was really upset because he's the least obnoxious blackjack player I've ever seen.
You would think his fit in the hat, you'd think he'd be more obnoxious.
Absolutely.
But instead, he gives Data the hat. And Data picks up on social cues and interaction so well. The way he's slinging dice with an aura of smugness, telling the fake woman to blow on the dice for luck.
You know what happens
And
when you
he's-
do that in a real casino?
Yeah.
What? They
You have to
switch
shut the
out
table
dice?
down and
They
switch
shut
out the dice.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, I had to do that 6 or 7 times a night. So
I've,
fun.
s- I've seen it. I've seen it happen in real life, and it's it's ridiculous.
Today I learned.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Picard and Geordi create a plan to slice through the shield to transport the away team, but the atmosphere would rush in and the team would not survive for more than 12 seconds. When Picard is listening to the audiobook, he discovers that it ends with Mickey D making an appearance and shooting the bellboy to keep him away from Rita. He tells Riker that post the shooting, foreign investors buy the hotel for $12.5 million and leave the hotel, leaving the assistant manager to run it. Riker's like, we'll be foreign investors. Money's not real. This place is not real. So they kind of come up with a way to raise enough money to save the community center. They need to raise $12.5 million in order to artificially buy the hotel.
Now, so they play craps to get the money. Now I got to ask Lee, being a professional.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have chosen craps. I would have chose 21 if I was going to try to make that money.
Oh,
right?
I don't know. Craps is the easiest way to make money.
Is it? Okay. All right.
Well, in my opinion. Lee
I don't
says no,
understand the
but-
game. So.
No, the only game that you're actually, because you got to play to break even. You can't play to win. The only game that you can play to even try to break even, it's only a 48% chance of breaking even, is just playing 0 or 00 on a roulette table.
Oh.
When it comes to craps, you can win aggressively and quickly, but you got to be able to get your pass line bet going. You have to get full odds. You have to be able to hop the hard ways. You have to get full odds on your 6 and 8.
Gotta get on the horn. Gotta play the field.
You got to get all that stuff going, and even then, you got to make sure that your croupier is really good, so they can make sure that your payoffs are accurate. So,
But more importantly, your robot needs to fix the dice so that they work
Yes.
in your favor.
yes, I've seen people that made $100,000 in one night lose $250 the next. So, it's
Wow.
you don't win gambling. You just don't.
So once Data
service
fixes
announcement.
the rigged dice, they miraculously win $12.5 million, buy the hotel, and leave. End of story. Best episode ever.
It's a bottle
You
episode.
forgot the
It's-
whole. Well, it's a bottle episode, but you also forgot the whole Copacabana storyline because I'm watching it with the bellboy and Mickey D and Vanessa, and I'm just kind of like, what is this? Oh my God, it's Copacabana. It is totally
It is.
Copacabana.
It is, but
Hmm.
at the same time, I also made a note with the bellboy talking to the or to the desk manager, about you better stay away from Mickey D. He's a bad egg McMuffin, that Mickey D.
Product placement.
That was the only note.
They
I
could have
made.
done it. They could have done a brand endorsement with McDonald's and had Mickey D walking in with his big moon head.
Oh, Mac tonight. Yes, that
Yeah.
would have
Mac
been great.
tonight.
Yeah, this big styrofoam moon head, and you can be like, you got to stay away from Vanessa, kid. It's me, Mac tonight. Yay, Big Mac's at the casino. Get ready to double down on flavor.
I think I love this episode. This is another Tracy Torme episode. So Tracy, shut up. I think I love his episodes. So Tracy Torme wrote the Royale as a story of a man trapped to relive his most pleasant memory until it becomes nightmarish. He was dissatisfied with the final product, which bears little resemblance to his original concept, and used the pseudonym Keith Mills in the credits.
Wow.
Also, this episode, airing in 1989, predicts that Fermat's last theorem would have gone unsolved for 800 years as of the mid-24th century. It was actually solved in 1993 by Princeton University professor Andrew Wiles. In 2016, he won the Abel Prize in recognition of his accomplishment. So,
wow. Obviously means that Star Trek is not in our timeline.
Obviously.
Well, they also corrected it in Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
They corrected that. They corrected that in Deep Space Nine. Dax was like, "Oh, yeah,
nice. Maybe it is on our timeline.
We'll get there. We'll get there
someday." But until then, time squared. The Enterprise comes across its own shuttlecraft adrift in space, a duplicate with an unconscious duplicate Captain Picard inside.
Oh man,
Two Picards.
This episode. No, it's a prototype for 2 of the best episodes of Next Gen that are coming later. It's literally like this is the test script for 2 phenomenal episodes.
I was manifesting one of my favorite tropes, which is which one do I shoot? But alas, this episode opens with my man Riker making food for everybody, adding 0 spices.
Yeah. And all he makes is scrambled eggs, that's it, and he's being praised? What
he
the
makes
hell?
Welcome.
Oh, okay, you have a practiced
man,
hand,
so
says Eustace Pulaski.
Yeah, Dr. Pulaski is like, yeah, you go, Riker, you scramble those eggs. And everybody else is like, are you sure?
Yeah.
No, I know he later advances his skills to make pizza, but, that's not much harder.
I love Diana Muldaur's line, though. She's like, oh, a practiced hand, Commander. I'm like, he just poured eggs on a skillet.
That's all he did.
Obviously doesn't use nonstick
like
spray because
that.
I mean, have you ever been to Cisco's restaurant in New Orleans? I mean,
Papa Cisco's? Yeah.
No, we haven't.
Oh, sorry,
Instead,
Rebecca,
we're
sorry.
making eggs on a non-stick surface. Because
guys, let's let Rebecca go back to simping for Riker's eggs.
Go ahead.
I'm not. The man added 0 spices. He had 0 non-stick technology.
It's true.
Nope.
They're not
And he
even
had to
eggs.
borrow that cooktop from Data.
Probably.
Okay, so they make a meal, and then
Make eggs.
thank God something comes up and they have to leave because they come across a Federation shuttle floating aimlessly without power but exhibiting life of one human aboard. They tow in the craft only to find it is one of their own with, to their amazement, a duplicate but unconscious Captain Picard. Pulaski says that the duplicate Picard has his brainwaves out of phase. So they attempt to wake him, which leads to his life signs going dead. The normal stimulant had the opposite effect on the duplicate Picard. The Enterprise provides power to the retrieved shuttle, but the phase needs to be reversed to make it work. Can anyone tell me what phase, what we're talking about when it comes to phase?
It's electricity, right?
It's hand wavium.
Yeah, hand wavium. It's unobtainium. Flows through the hand wavium, and
the polarity is reversed. You get power.
Yeah, I just went with electricity.
How do they work?
It's Bizarro Picard and Bizarro Shuttle. And at that point, you're
good. Picards.
Alternating current and direct current. That's all I thought.
I spent the whole episode just watching the shuttle because it's so obviously plywood. And then when the shuttle doors open, they're like because they couldn't get the pulleys lined up.
Exactly.
And It's just like, oh
it's
god,
out of
guys.
phase. It's out of phase.
And
It's out of budget, is what it is.
Exactly.
It's out of budget.
And it's tiny. Did you notice how
Yeah.
tiny it
Yes.
was?
Well, that's why
Yeah,
it's a
from the
shuttle.
outside, it
about.
doesn't look like a 2-seater.
No. They got better
All right.
shuttles than that. Anyway.
So Data and Geordi manage to restore the power, and they determine that this craft comes from 6 hours in the future. The shuttle's log also reveals the Enterprise's destruction in the near future. And, of course, everyone is perplexed because Picard would never leave the bridge in case of an emergency. Pulaski manages to revive the duplicate Picard, and he is still, like, so disoriented.
You could tell because they shot him from beneath, and he was going,
Whoa.
such great acting from Sir Patrick.
So
Acting.
the bridge crew discusses all of their options, including reversing course. But Riker says that by taking the duplicate Picard on board, they may have committed to an unalterable sequence of events. Worf suggests that this might be a time loop where something has happened and it will simply keep happening again and again. Picard understands that a mistake was made in the future, and the key to exit the time loop would be to avoid making the same mistake again. So Deanna, using her magic superpower, senses that Picard 2 desperately wants to get off the Enterprise. Picard 2 gets closer to the time from when he got thrown back in time. He gets calmer, and his vital signs also stabilize as Picard tries to question Picard 2, but still no answers out of him. Pulaski says that at the time in the future when Picard was thrown back, he would be functioning normally and possibly be able to answer Picard's questions. But Picard is angry. Deanna tells Pulaski that the duplicate Picard represents doubt and hesitation in the face of danger, and that's why Picard is angry. Pulaski says that if Picard starts acting irrationally, she will be forced to relieve him of his duty as captain. I'm also, it's around this time where I'm kind of starting to like Dr. Pulaski.
Oh, that's good. She's got 5 episodes left,
Yeah.
and she's never mentioned again. It's the
Poor
best
woman.
thing ever.
The Enterprise enters a dangerous energy vortex, and the events in the recovered shuttle's logs seem to be coming true. Picard and his crew must find a way to break the time warp cycle they seem to be in. Deanna says that the vortex is conscious. It has no thoughts, but instinct. Picard thinks that maybe the mistake made the first time was to stay and find out what it was, which makes sense, of course, right? The Enterprise they're scientists, they're explorers, they're going to try to figure out what this thing is. He orders the Enterprise to move out at warp 9, but the vortex simply increases the pull, and the Enterprise stays where it is. A probe is launched, it's destroyed, the vortex attacks only Picard, both Picards, and the Enterprise is straining its engines to hold its position. Picard decides to leave the Enterprise as he feels that sacrificing himself might save the ship, which is the whole cycle of events. Picard, too, is conscious now. He knows he's on the Enterprise, and he knows that he needs to leave the ship in order to give it a chance to survive. Picard, too, says that the vortex is an entity that recognizes the Enterprise as an entity, with Picard as its, air quotes, brain, and it wants the, air quotes, brain. And if it gets the, air quotes, brain, it'll let the Enterprise go. So Picard 1 tries to talk to Picard 2 about what our other options might be, but Picard 2 is just he has made his
focused.
decision.
He's
and
singularly focused, yeah.
Leaving the Enterprise is the only choice. Picard 1 understands and kills Picard 2 with a phaser.
Yeah.
Picard takes the Enterprise to the center of the vortex and it vanishes. Picard 2 and the Shuttle 2 are also gone. Again, I love when Star Trek does this. The end.
Colmeany's only dialogue in the entire episode is that the Picard and the shuttle are gone. That's it. Like, he just stands there making facial expressions like...
Well, but the other thing is, he calls Dr. Pulaski to the shuttle bay. Where does she pick up O'Brien along the way? Just like, oh, by the way, Chief, you got anything? Are you busy? Come with me. We're going to go check some shit
He
out.
comes along. And Picard kills the other
She's just kinda
Picard. She
standing
just
there.
turns... And Pulaski just turns around and leaves. She's just like, oh, well...
I gotta go poop
I
out
can't
these
do
eggs
anything
that
here.
I ate.
And a Worf
Yucky
liked him.
tummy.
Yeah, at least Worf liked
But
him.
by the okay, going back to Worf though, Worf is also nobody commented on the fact we got intelligent Worf on this one. Because
Yeah,
he's the one who's
yeah.
it's a time distortion thing. And nobody's like, Worf?
Yay.
We got all these sciencey guys.
It's not like he
Worf?
was hanging out
Worf,
with
the
the Klingon
grown-ups are
Temple
talking.
Worf. Yeah.
I just watched
again-
the voyage home. I have an
But
idea.
again, that's what I love about Star Trek, right? Is
Mhm.
there's no bad ideas, and we'll learn about this too, in one of the upcoming episodes, because Wesley's struggling with responsibility, and Riker says, "Well, think to yourself, what would Picard do?" And Picard,
Shoot himself.
no,
No, the
Lee.
alternate timeline version of himself. He would. He'd be like,
okay.
'cause he was being such a pissy bastard this whole episode. He's like, I hate this other Picard. He's a giant wuss. I hate him. I'm gonna phaser him first chance I get.
That's true.
Pew,
That's
pew.
true.
Would you do that if you encountered a duplicate of yourself?
Obviously not. That guy's
Duplicate
probably cooler than hell.
That
He
guy
probably-
figured out time travel.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, let's go. Where are we going? All those concerts I didn't go to because I wanted to stay home and get stoned. God, I just like, let's go, Lee. Let's
I
do
could have
that.
been stoned at the concert.
Yes. So time
Oh.
travel, Lee, could take me to those places. I wouldn't phaser that guy. Sounds awesome.
A piece of trivia that I just want to acknowledge about this episode. Picard admits that he has trouble with waiting patiently, and Riker says that that's Picard's Persian flaw. In traditional Persian carpet weaving, it is standard practice to deliberately put in a few mistakes because attempting perfection might offend God. I reference this particular piece of culture nearly every day.
Really?
And I don't know why. I learned about it somewhere along the timeline of my life, and that's why I say I can never be like perfect, because I don't want to offend God. And
That's it. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. So I wanted to include it because it's something I reference like nearly daily, and I'm just happy to see it in Star Trek.
Excellent.
So
Moving on.
Of the
Yes.
18 shuttle pods on the
Yes.
Enterprise,
Yes.
the Elbaz was featured on this episode. Now,
Yes.
the Enterprise also has 2 shuttle pods named after Chris Pike. One's just the Pike, the other one's the Chris Pike.
The
But
Chris Pike.
Yeah, the Elbaz, it was
I would
named
like a ride in
after
the Chris Pike. You know what I mean?
real, genuine Apollo geologist Rook Elbaz. So it was named after a real guy, and his kids were Next Gen fans, and they didn't know that the shuttle had been named after their dad. And this episode comes on, and they all lost their minds.
Hey, our dad's
because
cool,
Aw.
actually.
Our
That's
dad,
awesome.
our dad's got a dinky little shuttle pod named after him.
You know what? You get what you get, and you don't.
2-seater, made out of plywood, doors jank.
All right.
This next episode, written by Kerry Jackson and Leigh George Kade, The Icarus Factor. Riker's delight at being offered a
God.
command of the USS Ares turns to frustration when the man sent to prepare him for his mission is his estranged father. And Worf's behavior leads Wesley to delve into Klingon tradition. God, the B-plot of this episode
Oh
is
God, the special
incredible.
cameo from Entertainment Tonight's John Tesh.
Oh, I know, right?
Okay, so Riker is offered command of the USS Ares, and both he and Picard are like, "Hey, that's awesome." Riker has 12 hours to think it over and make a decision.
Think
And
over
to
his
me, I'm like,
entire future.
that's
Yeah.
not enough time. They are stopping at a starbase where they are taking a civilian on board to brief Riker on his new assignment. And Picard, cheeky little monkey that he is, he's like, I think you'll like him. You should go down and meet him. And doesn't tell him who it is. And so Riker heads on down to the transporter room and beams aboard the civilian who turns out to be his dad, Kyle.
Kyle.
What
Kyle-
a 24th century name, Kyle.
Kyle is sporting a onesie from the Camel Toe collection by Hugo Boss.
Amen.
It's stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And the
man.
look on Riker's face,
Yep.
just, oh my God.
Looks like
this
somebody
guy?
spiked his trombone with terrible eggs.
It's the first time ever that we learned you never invite your parents to your party. That's just,
No.
this is the first time that's ever happened.
And Picard's on the bridge like and also Dr. Pulaski, there's a whole life that she has lived before the Enterprise, and honestly I'm dying to know more, because she sees
Well, you're
Kyle
gonna die
Riker.
before you learn more.
I know. She
We're not gonna
sees
we're not gonna get young Pulaski adventures. Oh, too bad.
Well, I mean, she did play a character in the original series. We can just pretend.
yeah.
she played 2 characters in the original series.
She played 2 characters in the original series. One of them's got to be Pulaski.
Must be.
One of them, the blind one. That's
The
how.
blind- yeah.
That's how she talks about curing blindness. How she's done it before.
Yeah. It was her grandma.
I like it.
The-
I like it.
Put it together.
Go with it.
But she sees Kyle in 10 forward, and she's like, "Oh my god, this fucking guy!" And we are led to believe they had a relationship.
Yeah.
Riker is just like off in the corner, puking in a bucket. Meanwhile, in the B plot, Worf is pissy. But also, who can blame him? Because Wesley is talking to Worf, just nattering on about Pokemon or something. And Worf is like, stop talking. And then Wesley goes to Geordi and Data and is like, why is Worf so mad at me? And they're
He
like,
has a
were you
Zorch.
talking about Pokemon, Wesley? And he's like, well, yeah. And then they essentially tell Wesley, like, figure it out. And Wesley goes on a deep dive of Klingon culture to find out what's wrong with Worf. And ultimately, further on in the episode, Wesley determines, hey, I think Worf is pissy because he hasn't had a chance to do his, it's the 10th anniversary of his Age of Ascension. And typically that day is spent celebrating with Klingon friends, and he doesn't have those. And so Worf is feeling culturally and socially isolated. And so Wesley, Data, and Geordi decide to throw him a surprise Klingon party on the holodeck. And if that's not the most wholesome thing you've ever heard in your whole life, I don't know what to tell you.
And I love what a weenie Geordi's being about the whole thing. He's like, well, I don't know. We let sleeping Klingons lie where I'm from.
So they we'll wrap up this B plot. Ultimately,
Yeah.
Deanna takes Worf to the holodeck where the doors open. It would have taken everything in me not to shout surprise, but there's just a whole bunch of Klingons. And it's a surprise Klingon party just for Worf. And the ceremony is painful. And they use a Klingon pain stick on
And
Worf.
John
but
Tesh
Worf,
is there.
John
Yeah.
Tesh is there. Worf must endure and get to the end of the line. It's like the line of birthday spankings. He's got to get through that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, Worf makes it. And he's very thankful to his friends despite being in extreme pain. Just an absolutely lovely B plot.
Now to the A plot, which is
Now
not
to the A plot.
Not so
where,
lovely.
not
Where
good.
Riker is like, I don't want to talk to my dad. And
I want to hit on this hot lady in 10 forward.
I want to hit on this hot lady. Riker having a conversation with Chief O'Brien in 10 forward. And
Which
Chief
that
O'Brien
part
is
I
like-
loved.
it was
I-
so good. It was
that-
so good.
That moment in time was the best part of this episode. The only good part
Yeah.
of this episode.
That's how you
Not
know
the
Miles
surprise,
O'Brien's
not
the
the Klingon
most.
surprise party.
Well, it could have been its own episode.
Yeah.
I mean,
A very
Yeah.
special episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then you're right. Riker gets up and leaves, and he taps a lieutenant on the shoulder, and he's like, "I'll see you later." And she's like,
Yeah.
"Okay." What's all that about? Because later when Riker's thinking about his decisions, he's going around and he's talking to people. So like, he talks to Pulaski, and Pulaski's like, "Do you know why your dad is this way? Because of a mission where he was the only one who survived. Like, isn't that nuts?" And Riker's like, "Oh my God. Oh, okay." And Riker goes to talk to Deanna, and they have a very emotional, sweet moment where she's like, "I want you to do what's best for you, but I will miss you." And she starts crying, and he hugs her and kisses her on the top of the head, and I just love them forever. And then Riker and his dad go
you're
to
in,
the
you're in for a
gym.
rough couple of years.
There's a moment. What moment was it? Where the Romulan warbird was going to like shoot phasers at them, and Deanna puts her hand on Riker's arm. There's a lot of like tender, subtle moments between
yeah.
them that every time I catch them, I'm like, that's a spicy romance. Like, I love them so much. But Riker and his dad go to the gym and play Ando Jitsu.
Yeah, it's like Discs of Tron, but stupid.
Yeah, like
They had-
the choreography here is spectacular.
Is what they have like Japanese samurai football armor and I was looking for ceremonial feathers for Riker, but he wasn't wearing them.
Well,
Yeah, just
But they have this conversation in their Anbo Jitsu suits where Kyle takes his off and is having a very serious moment with Riker, and he's like, "Hey, there has been a rift between us, and I'm sorry, and I hate this." And Riker still has his helmet on, looking like
And
a fool.
they both look like fools. I wouldn't play Anbo Jitsu just because of the uniform, just because of the, But they actually invented this thing, this Anbo Jitsu. It is Japanese. An means dark or blindfolded, and bo means staff, of course. Jitsu meaning technique or skill. They made up this stupid sport for this episode.
where you do a lot of jumping up and down.
Yes.
And a lot of just circling each other, right?
I needed the fight music. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, they reconcile, and Riker decides to stay on board the Enterprise.
Real
Tomatoes
quick, yeah, it's like 40-minute episode, and it's like minute 39 that he comes on the bridge and says, "I'd like to
I'm
stay."
gonna stay. But weren't you worried? Didn't you have an inkling in your heart that maybe, just maybe, he would leave?
Yeah, I mean,
No.
I should have.
No,
All right.
I never for a second.
So the Klingon portrayed by John Tesh became a name in the official Star Trek customizable card game, Katesh. And
Oh,
Mitchell Ryan, who played Kyle, was originally a top studio choice to play Captain Picard. And and of course, flying in the face of whatever Gene Roddenberry wants, they cast Sir Patrick Stewart instead.
exactly.
I think there's something I noticed from these 5 episodes too. There's a helmsman who's either at the helm or just walking around who is built like and has the same hairdo as Frakes. I'm 90% convinced it's Frakes' stunt double. He's there, so they put a
They just
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
I like it.
I noticed him like every single episode in this 5-episode story arc that we watched. This guy's either walking by or sitting at the helm or something, but he's got the swoop, he's got brown hair, he's about the same build, about the same height, and no beard.
I like it. I like the idea.
Interesting.
Sure.
It's possible.
This last episode, we're going to talk about pen pals. Data befriends an alien girl in distress, breaking the Prime Directive, while Wesley commands his first team. Really quick about this B plot with Wesley. Wesley's put in charge of a team. First of all, the bridge crew is all talking like, "Oh, do we assign Wesley? Do we assign Wesley some more responsibility?" And then Data goes to get Wesley from the bridge, brings him up to the briefing room, and if I walked into a room where the entire bridge crew was sitting there staring at me, I would shit myself. Because
Am I fired?
am I in trouble? Like, are you guys mad at me? That's just like
Oh, my mom.
I would probably poop myself. So they give Wesley some responsibility. And he's now in charge of the planetary mineral survey, which should explain why the system has become so unstable. And he has to command a team for the first time, and everybody is older than him. And so Wesley is like trying to come to grips with being in charge. And he says, "Okay, we should run an XYZ on this thing." And everyone's like, "Oh, I don't know, that's gonna take like so long." And Wesley's like, "Okay," and goes to 10 forward, talks to Riker, and Riker's like, "Well, what would Picard do?" And Wesley explains Picard would listen to everyone's opinions and then make a decision based on those opinions. And then also, simultaneously, when this has happened, Picard is doing this exact thing where he's listening to everyone's opinions and trying to come up with a solution. And I just think that was some masterful storytelling.
And a merry little chase around the Prime Directive Picard led them on too.
Ooh, we're going to talk about
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
So Wesley goes back to the people and he's like, "Okay, do the thing." And they're like, "Okay." And he's like, "Oh, that wasn't so hard after all."
I do have a major problem with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I've been thrown into leadership positions that I wasn't ready for, either too young or too inexperienced, but I had the skill of bullshit that allowed me to convince people I was ready for it. And so you get people who doubt your ability and they second guess you, and then you go get a pep talk by somebody you believe in, and you walk in and you say, "Do the thing," and they usually just keep doing what they were doing. Yeah.
You know what? And Lee's right on this one. I've had a similar situation where I went from basically literally Wesley's situation to having to supervise former peers, and they were just kind of like, it's like, though I just told you to do the thing, go do the thing.
Yeah.
Meh, whatever. So I'm
Yeah.
right there with Lee on that.
Here's the thing: neither of you have been in Starfleet, so
I am Commodore of Starbase 4, sir. I'll have you know.
these are Starfleet officers. So
Yeah.
the best of the best. So maybe
Luckily,
they'll
I
get it.
assumed the role from the previous Commodore Kade.
Yes.
So I'm a Nepo baby. I inherited my role.
So, meanwhile, Data has been communicating with a pen pal of sorts. He has established radio contact with this little girl named Sarjenka from a nearby planet. They have exchanged information for several weeks when Data finally realizes that Sarjenka's world isn't aware of extraterrestrial life, and as a result, he has broken the Prime Directive. So,
Court-martial.
also the planet that she's on is experiencing some geological stresses that are breaking up other planets, and their planet is likely to go the same way. So Data goes to the holodeck where Picard, all he wants to do is ride a horse. And this episode,
In Griffith Park.
the whole time I'm like, I hope this episode is just Picard wants to ride his horse in the holodeck, but things keep coming up. And so Data goes to the holodeck and explains the situation to Picard about how he's accidentally broken the Prime Directive, and Picard's reaction, oops. Chef's kiss. I love he doesn't overreact. He doesn't freak out. He's just like, whoopsie doodles, another Tuesday, I see, where we break the Prime Directive. So this leads to a really good conversation piece where the whole bridge crew gathers and they are like, okay, so Data has technically broken the Prime Directive. Do we or do we not step in to save this planet? Where does our responsibility begin and where does our responsibility end, right? And Picard does the thing where everybody gives their input. Some people say, this planet's destruction is fated and there's nothing we can do to intervene. But then Deanna is like, well, are we not part of that fate that we are here at this time right now to possibly save them? And Picard, he eventually rules that
He leads them down that path where he's just like, okay, what if it was viral? What if the planet was being destroyed by a virus? And Pulaski's like, absolutely, we intervene. He's like, okay, what if it's, like this? It's geological. They can't help themselves. Do we intervene? And they're like, yes, absolutely. And he's like, what if it's a civil war that's been going on for hundreds of years and millions of people are dying on both sides? What do we do then?
I liked that discussion of the first
the
Prime Directive.
Yeah.
So Picard eventually rules that the plea from Sarjenka is a plea for help and it cannot be ignored. So he asks Data to contact the girl, and they find that she's no longer contactable. So he allows Data to beam down to the surface to meet her. The surface is getting more and more unstable, so Data locates her and beams her back up to the stars. And
brought a child on my bridge.
They bring to counter the implications of breaking the Prime Directive. Picard orders Pulaski to purge Sarjenka's memory of all communication with Data and her trip to the Enterprise. Pulaski performs the procedure. Data returns her to her home, taps the window, takes a quick look outside, sees what a nightmare it is, makes the window go away, goes back up to the Enterprise. By Sarjenka, never to be seen again, unless she shows up later.
She does not. But here's the thing. He leaves the singing stone with her.
Mm-hmm.
Data, my man.
Now,
Sentimental.
she may... but still, she's gonna be looking at that. And it's gonna trigger a memory, and she's gonna remember everything someday.
It's the Dr. Donna all over again.
Exactly,
Dr.
yes.
Donna. Some trivia for this episode, which is kind of spoilery for Shatner's last appearance. Patrick Stewart was not entirely comfortable with horse riding at the time of shooting. Later, when filming Star Trek Generations, he shared horseback scenes with William Shatner, who was a horse owner and riding enthusiast, and who amply displayed his mastery of control during their horseback dialogue. Shatner coached Stewart and provided a great deal of help, as well as various tips. One such tip was that he could prevent one's pants from riding up by wearing pantyhose underneath.
This is true.
And I kind of wonder if Shatner wore pantyhose under everything, and so he's like, you know what can solve that? Pantyhose.
Control top.
That guy's good at two things. Well, kind of 2.5. Halfway good at acting. He's a really good equestrian. He's very good at horseback riding and pool accidents. Like those are the
Yes,
the
absolutely.
2.5 things that he's phenomenal at.
Yeah, he's Pen Pals. This episode, Pen Pals, aired April 29th, 1989. So this is technically the first episode that has aired in a world where Rebecca Frost also exists. As I was
Whoa.
born April 27th, 1989.
There you go.
Next week, we're going to wrap up season 2 of The Next Generation with 6 episodes. There's technically 7, but we're only going to talk about 6, which are Q Hugh.
One of them is the worst episode.
One of them
We are
is
not
a
gonna talk about
mystery clip show.
Yep.
So we'll talk about Q Hugh. Q that Samaritan Snare, Up the Long Ladder, Manhunt, The Emissary, and Peak Performance. And then I didn't even have Shades of Grey in my original list until I was putting some stuff together, and I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean there's another episode?
Mm-hmm.
Just ignore it. It's just a clip show. We're not
Skip
even going
it.
to talk about
Can I,
it.
Skip it.
can I throw something out real quick?
Yeah, what's up?
I haven't seen the first 3 seasons of Next Gen since they actually ran.
Yeah.
I
Well, you know what
realized that.
you could just listen to previous episodes of the Space
Oh
Show
no,
show, because
no,
that's
and
what a
I
lot of other
have.
people are doing.
I'm a big fan, but what I've noticed is I was watching it on a black and white little like 12-inch TV in my 1-bedroom studio apartment. Did not realize that the carpeted walls existed. Like there's carpet on the walls on the Enterprise. Seeing it upscaled and in 1080p resolution, it's a very nicely shot show. Yes, it's very pastel, but it's also interesting what 35 years does to your perspective on an episode. Because when I saw Pen Pals, I hated it. I hated it. It was one of my least favorite episodes ever. And then as I was watching it yesterday, I was like, well, this has some real subtle nuance to it. Like this is philosophical Star Trek to a degree. And you know, my 19-year-old brain that just wanted zip pow blow 'em ups didn't quite get that. So
Well, just a couple of
Makes you
notes that
think.
I had were about Pen Pals was, Sarjenko, the actress is Nikki Cox. She's a child actress there. And
didn't
she
she
will-
marry Bobcat Goldthwait at one point?
Broke his
Engaged to.
heart.
Yeah. Okay.
Broke his heart and left him for that piece of shit Jay Moore.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh.
That was
Yeah.
Nikki Cox.
Yeah.
And she's been in a lot of shows. But anyway,
Yeah.
now,
Well, it looks like she divorced Jay Moore in 2018.
good.
Oh, good.
And back to let's see, the Icarus Factor, the worst episode. You know who else agrees with us? Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Because he said he during the read through at the script, Patrick Stewart made it clear he did not like the script, and said apparently out loud, "This is absolute bullshit. We can't do this."
There was a thing, especially in that last episode in Pen Pals, a subtlety of communication between Riker and Picard that I loved, because
Yes.
Picard's just like, we're right here. Number one, we're right here. And Riker goes back, and like that repeats a couple of times where they're showing how over their head they are.
How deep are we? Yeah.
So very subtle and so very, like you see it with Pike a couple of times where it's just like, yeah, we kind of have to bend our way around Directive One, you know?
Yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
But it's also, but this whole series of 5 episodes, also if you're looking at Picard and Riker's interactions overall, you can see that they've grown more comfortable with each other. Because especially in the episode where
peers now.
Picard's like,
yeah.
well, not even that, but it's like Picard's like, I'm leading the away team to the Iconian planet, and Riker's like, we've had this conversation before, because that was the first thing that Riker said when he stepped on the bridge, like, you don't get to do away missions anymore. And the discussion in Picard just like, yeah, but I know the stuff and I do the thing, so I'm going to do this. And Riker's just kind of like,
Let me be Indiana Jones.
and Riker's just like, okay. And the expression on his face is like, I'm trying to do my job. Let me do my job, but you outrank me. Go right ahead. And you can just see it on his face.
I love too when Picard beams back onto the ship from the Romulan ship. He's like, "Well, I see now why you're hoarding all of the away missions. They're
That was
so
a
much
good deal of fun.
And Riker's like, "I need you to be the captain of the ship, though."
If you'll excuse me, I must go torment some adolescents.
But also during the Royale, you also, when they're where they finally get communications back, and Riker and Picard are talking about the situation, and Riker's explaining what they're seeing and everything, and Picard's like, okay, find out more. But the scene where where Picard's finally learned about the foreign investors, and it seems like they have this little like wink and nod thing, like, I'm not saying this is what you should do, but there's some foreign investors who buy the casino, and Riker just has this grin, like, game on.
I love those moments where there's kind of an unspoken understanding between Riker and Picard. I love seeing those moments because it solidifies how. One thing I love about movies like Pitch Perfect, right, that always make me cry, is think of all of the work, or even Avengers movies too. Think of all the time and the work and the togetherness that these people have had.
Yeah.
They have whole lives together.
Exactly.
And you see that come through in these 40-minute episodes, right? Like, these people are close, and I love seeing just those tiny familial interactions.
Is the next episode Q Who?
Yes. It
Yes.
is.
This is one of the most notorious continuity episodes ever.
Like bad?
Oh no! It's like they came up with a villain.
Important.
No, it's important because of what they introduce, but the continuity goes away immediately. Like the next time these characters show up again, the whole continuity's changed. But
Everything's different.
What?
Yes.
It's a trip because there's some stuff they could have and should have kept. I'm going to be very vague about it because I realize I am Commodore spoilers. And I don't want to be that. So, but yeah, fun episode. John Delancey.
But this next bunch of episodes too, this is where I haven't seen anything coming up. The last episode I watched in my watch last year was Pen Pals.
Really?
So this is all moving forward from here. This is all brand new territory for me.
This next episode's a treat. I guarantee you'll love it.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, maybe
It's
I'll
a
go
lot of
watch
aquarium tubing.
Maybe I'll go watch it, she says. Look at that.
But until then, we are going to keep going where no man has gone before, but a lot of people have gone before. Thanks, everybody.